Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Many times in our life, we measure our value and our worth by what I like to call gold stars. And I know that I personally have done this. How many degrees, how many certificates? It's all about checking off those boxes. But what if our worth, our value is so much more than our achievements? We're going to be discussing that today on Beyond the Pages. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck here on USA Global TV and Radio. And today we have a very accomplished expert who is going to talk to us about taking that quantum leap. I'm going to introduce her after I bring her up. Her name is Dr. Victoria Rader. Let's welcome her. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Jacqueline. What an honor to be here with you today.
It's such a pleasure and privilege. You have a PhD and you are the founder of U2 Shine, and you're also the pioneer of quantum personal development. You are a TEDx speaker and you have had some incredible accomplishments we were talking about backstage that actually I've never even heard anyone accomplish before. And you're an avid tennis player. So you are really very well-rounded. And if you think about the way I started off the show, I know for me, it's always been about ringing the bell, what's the next achievement? And then as soon as I would get the achievement, doctor, I'd be like, what's next? And it's always go, 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 and never just sitting and saying, well, wait a minute, what about the value I have as a human? So Vika, what would you say to our audience about starting with valuing who we are?
You know, many years ago, I read this book. It was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And that probably was one of the most impactful realizations in my life, to read through that and realize that none of those top 5 regrets had anything to do with any accomplishment in life. Like nobody on their deathbed said, I wish I'd achieved more. I wished I was recognized more. Nobody. And so looking at those answers, the very first one was, I wish I was more true to myself. And what a luxury it is. And so at that moment, and as I said, it probably 2 decades ago, I said, I'm going to live a life free of regrets. And to do so, I need to remember that I am who I am, even without all the degrees behind my name. Because I don't know about you, Dr. Jacqueline, but this is what I've noticed. I've noticed that I can put the best effort, I set a goal, I reach a goal, and I can say, yes, I've reached some goals. And I call it, I'm all right. I say it's my right hand. My right hand says, I'm all right, raise my right hand, I've reached goals. I use that in my TEDx. But then I can also honestly say, I put the same amount of effort, I put the same amount of time, and I set the same goals, and I have nothing left to give and nothing left to do, and yet I don't achieve them. So I call it my nothing left hand. And when I speak to audience, raise your right hand if you achieved a goal. I'm all right, I did it. But what about setting that goal over and over and over again, and you have nothing left to do, and you still haven't achieved it, right? And so this is the left hand. I have nothing left in me. And so I define worth. I define that value as, do you know that you're all right even with nothing left. So once you understand you as a human being are all right, even with nothing left, then you have nothing left to stop you, nothing left to dissuade you, nobody left to please, nobody left to seek permission from. You become free. You become free from your divine, infinite human value. And if you look at the stories of people that we honor, and respect, Oprah Winfrey was at a point of nothing left. Jack Canfield at a point of nothing left. Joe Vitale, nothing left. The list goes on. And so that fear of constantly adding on accomplishments and achievements very often masks our fear of, am I all right, even with nothing left? And I'm here to say, yes, you are. And it is the most luxurious gift you can give yourself.
I really appreciate what you just shared, and it's so profound. And it seems basic, but it's actually not. And what I want to just refer to now is if you think back to when we were children, that childlike wonder, that curiosity, it's like, oh, I can't wait to meet this person and I can't wait to play. And you're always excited. And then all of a sudden, somebody tells you, you are not good enough. Don't do this. Don't talk. Go sit in the corner. Stay in your whatever it is. And something profoundly changes. And so, doctor, what I'm wondering is as we get older, many times that manifests itself and we feel like no matter what we do, if we're doing something, we're not doing something, we're not good enough.
There are only 3 limitations in the work that I've done. I find there are 3 limitations. Now, there are a lot of subconscious trauma and belief around those limitations, infinite really, but there are really 3 core ones. The first one is what you're saying, I'm not enough. Okay. The second one is I'm so different, I don't belong anywhere. And the third one is what I want is just out of my reach. That's the history of humanity in a nutshell. I'm not enough. Because I'm so different, I don't belong anywhere. So what I want is just out of my reach. And so with I'm not enoughness and that conversation of somebody diminishing our worth, the reframe that is very powerful is what happened to you, or maybe you've caused something, did not make you unworthy. It was unworthy of you. Right? I have one of our journals, Worthy Me, rebuilds your worth from these principles of rebuilding your infinite worth. And so when you say, somebody told me, you're dumb, you're this, you're that, instead of saying, yes, that made me that, and I'm unworthy, you get to say, wait a minute, all of this was unworthy of me. And by doing the same thing, if you've harmed or hurt somebody, that shame is the most limiting thing that disconnects us from our human worth. You get to say that behavior is unworthy of me. So I'm going to remind myself that I'm worthy. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to forgive them, or I'm going to forgive myself because that was unworthy of me. So that is the shortcut and a reframe when you find yourself feeling unworthy.
Thank you very much. We have on the screen for people who are listening on a platform like Spotify instead of watching about quantum freedom. Can you talk to us a little bit more about this?
2019, so I founded my company You to Shine in 2013. And so by 2019, I have gorgeous studio near my home where I have a lot of different seminars. And in December of 2019, I have a very clear prompting, very clear intuitive knowing. I say it's God's prompting, but intuitive knowing. You need to take your programs online and you need to name them Quantum Freedom. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I think maybe it's because we're going to be, outselling the space that I have in my studio. And so I launch a membership and a subscription that really becomes a movement that's called Quantum Freedom. And we know that shortly in January of 2020, we find out a pandemic and the world shuts down by March. And yet we are fully transitioned to supporting people online. And session after session after session, I'm understanding that what we have created is true ability to seek freedom at every level of our being. So, quantum is a fancy word for everything. Quantum is simply the underlying energy through which everything that is and is created. Quantum field is the particles that are vibrating that later create the matter. So everything that is quantum. And so quantum freedom is freedom at all levels. It's freedom to love and be loved. It's freedom to forgive. It's financial freedom. It's freedom to travel. So think of where you're limited. Quantum freedom became a place of shifting you, of quantum leaping you from a limitation where you are to the expression of freedom where you desire to be. So with time, it developed into a membership and a beautiful community and a family of visionary entrepreneurs. We are now covering 49 countries through our membership and growing continually.
Congratulations. That is quite an accomplishment. And I know that you work with people to help them find this freedom. And to me, I think of it as peace of mind. If we look at the world, and we're not getting into politics, but there's not peace, there's unrest, people are very upset, there's a lot of violence, even on social media, a lot of negativity and violence. And so I always talk to people about tapping into moving away from the chaos and the drama and finding that peace. But people tell me that it's not actually possible. But with what you're doing, you're showing that it is.
You know, it's such a beautiful observation. I think one of the best description of freedom comes from the book from Viktor Frankl, from Men's Search for Meaning. And in that book, he says that between a stimulus and response, there is a gap, and in that gap lies freedom. And what he means is that the outside, the environmental triggers, their full-time job is get a reaction from us. And in the gap between how we react to that trigger lies our freedom. Meaning, true freedom is what is outside of me does not impact what is inside of me. I mean, that is the true freedom, is living a life detached from triggers. I'm not saying it's easy, right? It could even sound completely utopic for somebody. And yet that is the seeking of the soul. That is the freedom that you are describing, and that is the freedom that we are empowering people to have. Because from a place of inner peace, an ability to choose the response versus be controlled by reaction, you then become a creator, not a reactor. By the way, same letters. I say when you look at creator and reactor, same letters. C is shifted. And that C is a C of commitment. Do I commit to pause long enough that I respond and not react? That's the beginning of practical freedom.
I'm completely on board with what you shared. And for me, what I think about is if you have ever seen the show Survivor, people are out there in the wilderness. Okay, I would not be one, doesn't matter how much money they're offering. But
I'm with you.
someone's responsible for building the fire. And one thing that I learned from that show is fire needs oxygen. And it's kind of like when you're having a disagreement with someone has to keep that disagreement going. And we always have the option to take a step back, but sometimes we jump right into the fire because we have to be right. We have to be in charge. We have to be in control. And so to me, I think that comes from a place of ego. So where does the ego fit into this entire thing of finding peace and freedom?
You know, I think it's two. I think one is absolutely ego, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but I also think it's simply the cheap source of energy. We're energetic beings, and to know how to gain energy through peaceful, purposeful presence is hard work. It is hard work, but to get energy through drama is survival mechanism. So some of us, most of us, are wired to seek energy, so much so that a child will seek negative attention versus no attention. They've done multiple studies where they've proven that things thrive with positive attention. They survive with negative attention. but they die with zero attention. And so for a lot of us, we come back from background as to where we have survived through negative attention. And that's the only wiring we know how to. So that is why we seek conflict. That is why we seek drama. That is why we want to participate. So for a lot of us, it is not a luxury of an ego. It is just the basic survival because we don't know how to process healthy energy. Now that's that side. And then to your point, the ego wants to be right, right? It wants to be all right. It's that right side. I'm only worthy and I'm only all right if I'm right all the time. Because if I'm not right, I'm detached from my worth and I don't know how to be. And so that ego versus soul, ego versus worth, that's the conflict. So we want to get into it to prove that we are right because we're just terrified of not knowing how to be who we are without it.
I've never thought of that perspective, and I really appreciate that. That is something that I'm taking in, that duality there. That's brilliant. What about the fact that we can work on ourselves personally and professionally, but we have no control over anyone else? And so we feel good about ourselves and we go into a situation and all of a sudden someone starts just ripping us apart. And by the way, this happens on social media all the time. Many times when I'm broadcasting, people will write really evil things that might have something to do with me and might not. And so I don't put any value in it. I give the person grace, but not everyone's able to do that. And so someone might be working on themselves and they get to a certain point and they're still like, oh, and all of a sudden they're shrinking and they're invisible again. What do you say to that?
You know, you bring a very powerful point. There are these, I call them the aspects of wealth, the containers of wealth. There's 6 containers of wealth, there's 6 aspects that allow for you to thrive. And the first one is visibility. And so what you're describing is a very interesting and complex, actually, principle as to where we just find our light and we start shining it. And then what happens next determines whether we expand into thriving in all areas of our life, including financial, or we shrink back. And that is that tricky part of visibility, because the visibility goes on a spectrum from I must hide because you can hurt me to, oh, I'll show you, I'll prove you wrong, right? So it goes from shame to ego, that whole aspect of visibility. And right in the middle is that sweet spot of I am seen for who I am by everyone, but they can't see me for who I am. They only can see me through who they are. And once you pause for a second and you understand that how people see you has very little to do with who you are and everything to do with who they are and where they are, you can start developing empathy and compassion instead of self-defense and judgment. You know, we have this conversation, and I could give you an example that just happened literally 2 weeks ago on my YouTube channel for one of my journal, Quantum Me, for people that are into spirituality and energy movement. That journal is about daily alignment, and to make it easier for people to know what I describe by sealing your aura or blocking your energy for the day, I've created a little YouTube video. It's like a 5-6 minute tutorial for somebody who has the journal, and they can go there and they can learn how to do it. And right there under that tutorial, somebody wrote, I don't remember, but somebody wrote something very, very flustered and offensive. And I just put a smiley face and I said, what a unique take on it. That certainly is one way to see it. And I meant it. I wasn't mocking. I was like, wow, that's one way to see it, not a way I see it. And you know what happened? 3 days later, that person put another comment and they said, you know what? That was an off day for me, completely uncalled. Like I have chills through my body as I say it. Like it was so genuine on my part. So I think when somebody pours dirt on you, comment and say, wow, what a unique way to see it. I would never see it that way. But with complete detachment, right? With complete detachment. If we are attached to it, It means there is a part of us that is not healed and that is wondering, are they right? Or we go back to, does it make me less than all right? But if you go like, wow, look, that's an interesting point. I mean, that's how they see it because of who they are. Um, so watch for those defense mechanisms. If defense is coming up, it could be that deep inside you're asking a question, are they really right? And that's a place of healing. If the need to be right comes up, is it an ego? Or are you still having patterns of bringing energy in? But if you can look at dirt with humor, like, and imagine, our brain is very visible. So when you see a comment that is sticky, and if it's vulgar and you don't want it on your feed, you have the power to delete it. Please do so. But if it is just, somebody's throwing dirt, imagine you're washing it off with shower and with a smile, with a shower and with a smile. Because what else can you do? You know, stay visible, stay visible.
That's right. Sometimes we want to go and retreat. And just a quick personal story that just was prompted by what you said. We were talking about tennis, and I told you my mom loved tennis. It was a huge part of her life. She died when she was 84 and she played up until she was 80. And so when she was playing up until she was 80, some of the younger women would say, "You're too old to play. You shouldn't be playing anymore." And you know what? It ate away at her. And I used to say, "Mom, what happened? The strong, the bull, the beast, they're ripping the double backhand across the court." But eventually it took its toll on her and she stopped playing. And so, what I would say to people, don't let that happen to you, right? Don't let other people take your joy because, like you just said, doctor, we don't know what's going on with them. We don't know what is the reason that they're saying whatever it is that they have to say. So I like that about the shower. Take the smile, shower, goodbye, and see you later. So I want to move into how you actually work with people because you've got an incredible journey of options for people. And I want to bring it up on the screen. Tell us a little bit about who it is that you typically would like to work with, you and your team.
Most of our clients are visionary entrepreneurs, people that are seeking to make our planet a better place. That is who we work with. So we end up having a lot of authors, coaches, and just inventors, actually. So anyone who says, there is something greater in me, how do I find it? How do I express it? And how do I make this planet a better place with it? That is our ideal client. And so what we do is when somebody comes into our little bubble of influence, we first see what their current need for breakthrough. Right. So we all have a current need for breakthrough. And with that, we match them with the right coach or with the right program. And those that want to grow spiritually and intuitively, in addition to expanding practically, we invite to our Quantum Freedom membership. So usually we invite people to go mygiftoffer.com and get their free Quantum Leap ebook to get a taste and self-empowerment at a free level of knowing how to start breaking through limiting patterns. And from there, we offer different apps and journals and coaches and programs.
How did this all take place? How did you go from being a business person, entrepreneur, to having an entire global team? Because you really are such a role model and so empowering. And people out there in the audience might say, well, I couldn't do this. What is she, superhuman being?
I'll be very honest with you, Dr. Jacqueline, because that's the only way I know how to be, for better or worse for all of us, is that um, for a while when I was a homeschooling mom, and having taken my kids to Greece in 2006, they were little. I realized that this is a luxury I want to be able to afford, and I had no money to do so. So I literally went to Google and I said, what is the fastest way to become financially independent in America while homeschooling your kids? In 2006, going to 7. And in 2007, the all-knowing Google said, way before AI, it's real estate. So in 2008, in the beginning of 2008, I got into real estate just as the market crashed. And it was a luxury because I had no bad habits. So for me, the journey was, how do I keep traveling with my kids? And the answer was real estate. So I got a coach, and within a year, while homeschooling the kids and not working on Sunday, I was in the top 1% of the agents in the world. I mean, in US and Canada. And so a lot of people started asking me what was the secret. So I asked myself what the secret was. That was the beginning of that. And what I realized that the secret was the subconscious wiring. There were agents that were smarter. There were agents that worked harder. There were agents that deserved, quote unquote, it more. But I've realized there was this subconscious wiring, and that's why I got a PhD in quantum mechanics and spirituality, to find out what that wiring is and how the subconscious works. Because I knew something was programmed in me that was more responsible for this success than anything else. And so that desire to discover it and then finding the answer, I felt I had to implement it. So in 2013, I've started a company that had an answer to implementing subconscious success principles. That's how You to Shine was born. And it was not born with a vision. I know that we are taught to set a goal. And I think for a while I was setting goals. But what happened with this company, it reshifted everything for me. My goal was daily surrender. My goal was, and I will tell you what I've done for 2 decades, and it's actually the most recent journal, and it's responsible for every accomplishment in my life. And that is, in the beginning of the year, I would say, what is my theme for the year? In the beginning of each month, I would say, what is my theme for the months that supports my theme of the year? And then every day, I would ask this question for 2 decades now. What is one action to take, one decision to make, or one question to ask that helps me thrive through my theme for the months? And that answer becomes what I implement that day, no matter what. And so that what unfolds from those answers is responsible for everything that came through us as a company. I never sat there and I said, we need to become a global quantum personal development company. The honest answer was daily surrender and these amazing thoughts, ideas that were coming through. In my company's name, You to Shine, every letter stands for something, and I stands for innovation. And innovation is inspired implementation. So I would seek that inspiration every day, and then I would implement it. And what I often say is that inspiration without implementation leads to delusion. You have a lot of people that have all the ideas that they never implement, and they start getting delusional, right? Detached from reality. But then when you have implementation without inspiration, it leads to a lot of disaster. So you have a doers that just do, they work hard, and then there's no inspiration behind it, and there's just a lot of disastrous outcome. So I would invite everybody who's listening to lean into this. I call it quantum alignment. It works. 2 decades to prove it. Any story of successful accomplishment in my life, I can track it to that inspired implementation, one step at a time. So that is the answer. One tiny step, one day at a time. And when you look back, it looks like a pile of accomplishments, but one tiny step at a time.
Let me see if I heard what you said. You had no money. And you said to yourself, I'm homeschooling my children. I want to make sure I can take them to Greece and travel the world. I'm going to go on Google and ask Google, how can I do this? And Google said, real estate. Real estate is a very cutthroat, difficult business. I had a real estate license for a year. I did one open house with my heels, and I was like, that's the end. So I give you a lot of credit for that, because not only did you do it, but you excelled to the very top. And now you have a global ecosystem. And we have people watching right now who are thinking, I can barely put A and B together to get C. So it's one small step at a time. That's what I heard you say. But what about the fact that we are our own worst enemy? And we say to ourselves, who are you kidding. You can't
Mm.
do it.
I think that voice is very important to listen to so you don't listen to. You know, you've asked me a question before we started whether I had a podcast, and 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, 4 years ago, I was in a parking lot of a Social Security office because I found out that despite my best effort in being in the country for 32 years, I was not yet marked as a citizen in Social Security system. So I went in and I'm sitting there and looking at which interviews I'm going to do. And I have this clear knowing, start your own podcast and call it all about the voice. So for 2 years, so I started that week, and for 2 years, I was studying which voices are in our mind. And the whole premise is the voice you listen to is the voice that dictates your life. So I have that voice. Every one of us has that voice. And if we're lucky, it's only two voices. Most of us have a ton of voices in our head, right? And so that voice that tells you you're nothing, who do you think you are? It's a very important voice. It's a voice of your scared self, I call it, your little your matter, your mortal matter, that says you're gonna die if you're gonna try something new. My job is to save you at any cost. So if you look at it no longer as something to shut up, but something as to thank and say thank you, you want me to survive and you got me here, I love you. You talk to that voice. That voice never heard I love you. That part of you is so wounded that he or she constantly tries to sabotage you. And we're taught to suppress it, to kick it out. No. You talk to that voice and you say, I hear you. You want to save me. You're responsible for me still breathing here. I love you. But I'm going to pause and I'm going to hear the second voice, the still small voice, the inner voice of what I call the sacred me. The voice says me, who I am not, who am I? I'm a being of infinite worth. In my language, I'm a child of God. My worth is infinite. That is who I am. But listen to every voice so you identify them, so you know the difference. And remember, the voice you listen to is the voice that dictates your life. So when you hear the scared, when you hear the doubting, thank her or him, tell him you love him, and then pause and say, where's that sacred voice? Where is the worthy voice? What does that voice want me to do? What does that voice want me to do? And do that over and over and over and over again. The negative voice never goes away because it always has a job to make sure that we don't move forward. It has a job for us to survive. But the sacred voice is the one that keeps us and guides us into thriving. So don't fear it, love it.
Thank you, doctor. I really appreciate that because that's something also I hadn't thought about is that voice is actually playing a very important role. It's almost like people in your life who tell you you're not good enough and then you accomplish it and you think to yourself, I don't know if I would have done it if people kept challenging me. So I really think that that's something for us to incorporate. And I want to acknowledge as we are coming to the end of our show, which is going so quickly, you have won a number of awards and you've also been recognized by Forbes Switzerland. And you also have some part of you that made an incredible trip somewhere. Tell us about that.
Following this very system that I described, a quantum alignment, I was at a conference called Secret Knock. And Greg Reed, who's the founder of Secret Knock, was leading it. And so in the morning, asking what is my one action to take, I had a very strong feeling, accept an offer. I wrote down in my journal, accept an offer. So Greg gets on stage and he says, I have an offer to make. And I will tell you tomorrow, except I come to him and I said, I want to accept your offer. He's like, who are you? Well, crazy woman. You don't know what the offer is. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm here to accept the offer. That offer came with a very high price ticket. It was a $30,000 project for personal development. That personal development was a full year mastermind of where we interviewed the legends of personal development and created a book and a movement around it, and was just an amazing mastermind, and a journey of a lifetime, and towards the end of that journey, we all knew each other, and Greg texted me and said, "Hey, I have an amazing opportunity. I've been watching you for a year, and you're leaving a legacy without a desire to leave one. How is that possible?" And I was laughing. I'm like, you're just busy doing your daily thing. And he said there is a unique opportunity where SpaceX is flying to the moon and is going to implant on the moon a little capsule. And in that capsule will be the humanity's legacy. Different DNA, different scientific research, and a little gold pyramid. And on that pyramid, they're going to imprint a book that is called Lunar Legacy. I want you to do a chapter in that book and share what legacy means to you. And so I got to write a chapter 22. You actually can get the book, his book on Lunar Legacy, on Amazon. But that very book was imprinted on the Golden Pyramid and flown to the moon. But the whole premise of that chapter was there is no such a thing as an individual human legacy. Like when you live a life so fully and completely that you serve and that you love and that you live a life with no regrets, the innovations come through you that become a fabric of humanity. And that becomes, oh, there it is, Lunar Legacy, DNA of Success. And that becomes a part of human legacy. Like we all are a part of that. And so detaching from needing the credit for that allows for us to celebrate that.
I am forever changed by meeting you today, and I really mean that. I have learned so much. I just want to thank you. Who would you like to reach out to join your membership, your subscription platform, and how do they do that?
So we invite you to be interviewed. It is by application process. And the reason why is the energy of quantum freedom is amazing. And so we guard and protect it with so much love. So, what I will tell you, if you are ready to find out about quantum freedom, go to our site, u2shine.com, and click on the button Discover Your Potential with Quantum Freedom. And what I promise you is that you will leave with value. From that free meeting, you will leave with a quantum leap that will redirect your life. And then, if we're aligned, you will have an invitation to join us. My feeling is if you're called to it, you probably are qualified for it. So if you are somebody who truly wants to impact this planet without sacrificing your life, but living your life fully and joyfully and leaving that legacy, you're our person. So come join us and come meet me for that beautiful interview on Quantum Leap.
And how do people follow you on social media?
So probably Instagram is the best place, and that is my handle is at Vika VICA underscore Rader RADER.
Okay, the only one I didn't pull up. Vika.
So there it is. The intuitive reading worked again.
Here it is. Okay, let me share the screen so that people can go ahead and connect with you on Instagram. There we go. Okay, and then we also have your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and your YouTube links that are in the comments. So, Victoria, as we close out the program, how would you summarize what we discussed today for our audience?
So whether you are a spiritual or religious person or simply a scientist, that space that you occupy in the quantum field, time and space are related. And so the time space that you occupy is the very best all of the universe is capable of at this moment. You cannot be replaced. You've always been, and you will always be. You're simply changing the way you show up in this eternity. That makes you worthy. Makes you worthy, makes you irreplaceable, and makes you free.
Thank you, Doctor. And of course, you've written books and you've got journals for people to purchase and actually channel what it is that they're feeling and thinking. How can people purchase these?
Go to meseries.love. That will take you to Amazon, where you can choose the best aligned journal or book for you. meseries.love.
All right. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate you being here today. And please do come back and see us on one of our other shows to continue sharing your wisdom and your knowledge.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.
There you have it, folks. I have learned many things today. I'm always open to learning, and I hope that you are too. So this moment doesn't define who you are. It defines the fact that you tuned in for a reason, whether you're watching live, listening live, or on a replay. You were called to be here, I really believe. So please do reach out to Victoria and her team, because she has shared. She was broke, raising kids at home. And now she has this global empire. And part of her work is up on the moon. I mean, how many people can say that? So think about where your life can go when you walk through the door. The door today is going to you2shine.com and finding the path that works for you, applying for a meeting, and then seeing where you can go, ordering Victoria's books over on Amazon. I want to thank you for being here today. And what I share with you is, Victoria mentioned this, we all need coaches. We all need mentors. And when we're open to receiving, I believe that's when the universe actually brings things to us. I was in corporate selling meetings and events, and now I've created this television network. I didn't do it by myself. I did it because I was taking care of my mom, and I was a full-time caregiver, and I had to do something. Like Victoria talked about real estate. So we don't know what our calling is. We don't know why we're in the situation that we're in, but maybe just look for the positives. And what is the value that you can take from it? What can you learn from it? And again, not looking for those gold stars as I've always been doing my whole life. I finally am at peace with that, and just being free with me, being free to be me and appreciating who I am. So I hope you find that freedom. And I know one way for you to do it is to reach out to Victoria. So please go to you2shine.com, and all the links are there in the notes. Please also go to Victoria's Instagram, which is here as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. We're going to close out with a message from one of our team members. And this is really near and dear to me, Tracy Cram Perkins. She's written a book called Dementia Home Care: Before, During, and After. And she's a television show here by the same name. And when my mom had dementia, Tracy's book really helped me immensely. And I cried on her shoulder many times, because when you're a full-time caregiver, it's a tough journey. So take a look and consider ordering Tracy's book. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor, teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio. People are searching for experts every day. Are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Every day, professionals are building authority through media. We've already built the platform. USA Global TV and Radio. Over 14,000 shows streamed to over 60 countries. This isn't about becoming famous. It's about leverage, visibility, credibility, opportunity. One interview, one conversation, one show, repurposed into content, connection, and business growth. Most people assume hosting a TV show requires a studio, a production team, and a massive budget. Our television packages begin at $1,500 US per month. Professional production, global distribution, replay visibility, built for voices with something to say. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and if this resonates with you, we should talk. USA Global TV and Radio, all rights reserved. Contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.